after all of the roof and these chimneys, here's what we've got. I really like these the chimney design. The real castle has these chimneys all over the place, and it just looks great. Some of them are functional with campfires, and some of them we just have cauldrons with flower pots on top. I think it looks quite nice. And take a look at the progress that we've made. We've got all of the walls and all of the roof done. The next big step will be the windows, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. So most of the exterior detailing is done. All of the chimneys, all of the roofs. I'm actually okay with the way this part turned out. It's a really good shape for the roof, and with the vines, with a little bit of terraforming, I think that will look really nice. We've added some more of these horizontal ledges, the dark oak fence gates and the deep slate tile walls there. I got scaffolding all over the place, of course. I have to clean that up. On the rear side, yep, using mainly hoppers across the line. I really like this tower. It's a little larger than the other ones, and it juts out just slightly. Also, you can see this roof shape here is actually repeated over here. It's almost like this castle was built in different sections where they merged together different pieces. And this appears in the real castle, where you've got this part that looks like almost a self-contained building with a pointed roof there that was merged into the rest of the castle. Similar style over here, right? You've got this roof part here that merges in with the rest of the roof. Lots of details like that really make the neo-Gothic style come alive. Just so many details, so many lines and shapes, really makes it look very unique. So that's where we are right now. We just can't wait to get that clock tower in. But the first thing I want to do is talk about the windows. There's now no easy way to get in here. I've got to fly. That's why I haven't finished this part here. Very large open space. And it's still a bit dangerous. I think there are spots up here that are spawnable. I've had some zombies drop down on me. They were easy one-hit kills, but it's still a little scary, especially with all my materials in here. So I'm going to have to relocate all of this stuff outside. It's not easy to get in and out of here anymore. These are going to be doors here, but we haven't put that in yet. We're gonna work on the windows first. So yeah, I want to talk about the windows. I really like the scale that we have for the windows, and I really like the fact that we've got solid blocks and then with an inner frame of walls with chains going through the middle. And actually, let's go to the creative world where I designed the castle, because I want to talk about these windows and the design that I've come up with for what we will be building here. Okay, so here we are in the creative world that I used to design Castle Miranda. And I'm here mainly because I want to talk about the windows. You can actually see some of the evolution of where I started. I've got different parts of the castle scattered all around. I first started with this scale, and as you can see here, it is absolute garbage. And very quickly realized that a realistic player scale would simply not work out for this castle. So I moved on to a little slightly larger, actually twice as large, but still not the final scale. And I started prototyping the two main wings here. I was playing around with copper. I originally thought copper would work very well for the main clock tower, mainly because with copper you've got stairs and slabs and you've got different weathering colors that you can use. And this is a very common way to do these sort of cone-shaped pointy roofs, but it doesn't match the real castle, and it clashes way too much with the deep slate that would be on the remainder of the roof. So we very quickly pivoted to our gray wool, which I think looks like the real roof. It's made out of slate, and this is kind of the color. It's and the shape and the pattern. So we don't have the benefit of having stairs or slabs when we're using wool, but at this scale, it doesn't quite matter. We can still get a good cone shape that works quite well. Okay, but back over here to the windows. Now, on this section here, this is the one that I started detailing to try out different window designs. And this one was one that I really liked originally. So with 9 blocks of space to work with, we have quite a bit of detail that we can go into. So breaking it up with walls adds more depth, right? So this adds more depth, and with the walls, with the chains going in between the walls, so the walls do not connect to the chains except when the chains are on top of them. So that gives the nice little bump, a little ledge on those walls, and that adds a little bit more detail rather than just having a flat line. Okay, the effect I was going for here with these windows. Now, modern buildings will have very large, flat, clean, unbroken sheets of glass, very large. But in a neo-Gothic castle like this, the windows would have been, they're still large. You have very large windows, but they were composed of very small panes of glass that were inset in small wooden frames. So the effect I was going for is some way of taking a large space for the overall window, but breaking it into smaller pieces where you could imagine that these are all small panes of glass that have little frames around them composed together to make a larger window. So to make that effect, what we've got here, this is what I was originally starting with. On the main face, and this is what we've built in the actual castle so far. We have the walls and then chains in between them. And behind that, I've got a layer of horizontal chains. Okay, this gives this nice crosshatch effect. To add to that, we're going even deeper. And in this example, what we've got behind here is some stained glass and some wool behind that. So take a look here. So there you can see our horizontal chains. We've got here brown stained glass and gray wool. And I was experimenting with all different kinds of the stained glass colors and wool colors, and this seemed to be a pretty good place to start. And the reason is, with the brown stained glass and the gray wool, it gives a very warm color. It's sort of woodsy. It's sort of a brown wood color, and I thought that would contrast really well with the gray of the walls of the castle. So I really liked having this brown effect here. Very, very warm and wooden color that you wouldn't get from any of the other details of the stone. The trouble is that you really lose that. You really lose the depth. You really lose You lose a lot of that warmth. The details of the window panes disappears the further you get out. You're only able to see that pattern if you're looking very closely. So it sort of blends into just a very dark brown color that doesn't really look very distinguishable from the roof itself. So I didn't quite like the way that was turning out. So then what I came up with as an alternative that I think makes a very stately look. In here, we've swapped out the brown stained glass for black stained glass. And behind that is smooth stone. Smooth stone and a little bit of polished diorite. So the black stained glass is unique among the stained glass colors in that you have very well-defined lines. Very solid. You don't really see that unless you're using the black stained glass. And the smooth stone also has very well-defined lines around the border. You can see, these lines that are bordering the smooth stone are back there reinforcing this effect that these are small panes of glass that are composed together to make this larger window. So I liked how this was looking. It also, the color-wise, so we're losing that warm brown. But with this grayish color, it looks more stately. And it's darker than the gray of the castle walls. So again, I think it works quite well with the castle, either from a distance or even up close. Even at an angle here, you can see that there's a nice cross-hatch effect where you get these smaller squares that are put together to make this larger window. So again, from a distance it looks fine, and up close it looks fine too. There is a flaw where if you get too close, you can see where things break down, where the depth, since we're going 3 blocks deep behind the main face of the window. So when you're really close here, you've got to be careful. I've got to extend that basically all the way from the floor to the ceiling to get that to work. Yeah, and up here where we're running into the roof, it doesn't quite work. So I really liked this look. It looks very stately. It's a dark gray color. From this perspective here, you can really see this crosshatch effect. You have a whole lot of small panes that are putting together this larger window. I think it's a detail that really stands out and really makes this castle unique. The other thing I want to talk about is, why are we blocking out the light from the outside? So to be realistic, so Minecraft windows really let in way too much light. Even with very dark stained glass, you can basically see right through it. If you're standing outside in full sunlight, you can't see through a set of windows like this. It's going to reflect the light of the sky. I mean, take a look at any photograph of a building from outside in the sun. You're not being able to peer all the way through it. So to get this realistic effect where you're outside and you've got this castle, we don't want to be able to see what's actually inside from the outside. So that gives us the flexibility to experiment with the colors and textures that we want to put behind those windows to block out the light, to give us the best view of what it should look like from the outside. Now, however, to pull off this effect in survival is extremely expensive. For each of the 3 layers here, so we've got horizontal chains, we've got stained glass, and then we have a smooth stone behind it. So we would need 4.5 shulker boxes, 4.5 chests, so about 120 stacks of items to pull this off across the entire castle. Now that's not terrible if we're talking about something like stone, right? I've got a quarry, I've got multiple shulkers of stone. I can easily do that. And with the super smelter, we can turn that into smooth stone pretty much with no problem. The chains, also not a huge deal. The iron farm gives us plenty of iron. We've got multiple shulkers full of iron blocks. And to pull this off, it's not even, to turn all, chains aren't terribly expensive in terms of iron. It's 1 ingot and 2 iron nuggets. To do the whole castle with these horizontal chains, almost a full shulker of iron blocks, but not quite. However, if we wanted to use wool like we were doing back here, so 4.5 shulkers of wool would be extremely expensive. And we're using so much wool up here already. Now, I do have, with the wool farm that's been running basically since I've been on the server, I've got enough wool to cover the tower and all of the additional towers. We've got enough of that. But if we wanted to use gray wool behind these windows, we would need another really serious wool farm that was dedicated to whatever color that we wanted to use. And it would probably take weeks to build up the amount of wool that we would need. So we kind of have to be careful in our choice of material. With the stained glass, again, it's not so much the glass. I do have plenty. We have the smelter. We can smelt up sand. I also keep buying glass from my librarian villagers. I actually have plenty of glass, but the color, right? If we wanted to use brown stained glass, like again, I originally was thinking about the brown stained glass back here. So there would be no way I could get that many cocoa beans unless, again, I spent some time building a serious farm and then waited until I had accumulated enough to be able to pull that off. We need, let's see, how many stacks? I did the math at some point. The dye, we would need about 15 stacks of dye. So we could use white dye with our bone meal farm, no problem. White dye is no problem, but white stained glass back here, way too bright, and it lets in way too much of whatever material is behind it. With black stained glass, it's the perfect color. It's the perfect color. It gives us the shape, the solid lines behind it. And we have a guardian farm. And one of the benefits of a guardian farm, a lot of squid wind up in the guardian farm. So we have more than enough black dye to make the black stained glass for the entire castle. Okay, now, but I want to talk about some alternatives, right? Because even not just the material to build this in survival, but these horizontal chains, to lay them across the entire inner footprint of this castle from floor to ceiling, just to get this effect, that would be a huge pain. I mean, a huge pain. Pain? Window pane? Okay. So I was looking at alternatives, different ways that we could pull off pretty much the same effect, but would be a little more survival friendly. And one place I turned would be, this is a very common way of adding depth to windows. You put in trapdoors behind the window. Okay, so here we've got a layer of trapdoors, we've got stained glass and stone. It could be stone, it could be wool, anything else behind that. So we still have 3 layers, but instead of chains, we're using trapdoors. This effect, I've seen it in many places. It looks great. It adds so much depth, and you get a lot of shape, you get a lot of depth and texture, and you get you get a very good sense that these are small window panes that are put together into the larger window. I've seen this on a build on the bakery server by Painter Gigi and Waspycraft, and they built the Chateau de Noisy. It looks great. They've used this with birch trapdoors. The wood type doesn't quite matter. You get different colors depending on what wood type you're using. Here we're using spruce. We could swap that out. Probably we would want to use something like bamboo, since we have infinite bamboo at this point. So really, really great alternative to what I was using over here with the horizontal chains. And this is another great way of adding detail to your windows. Again, this would be very expensive though, right? So 4 shulkers of trapdoors, very expensive. Unless I'm using bamboo, it would be really hard to pull this off with spruce. So trying to find a compromise, I think I landed on this as a good solution that captures almost everything that I wanted in the original design. So we have this dark slate color. We still have the lines, the small panes that are bringing out the sense that there are a lot of small window panes here. But this is a lot more survival friendly. What we've done over here is just 2 layers We just have some black stained glass and stone right behind it. Very easy for me to get. Like I said, I've got enough glass and enough of the black dye that I could easily make this. It's not going to be as painful just stacking up two columns of blocks like this on the inside. Whereas laying chains like I wanted to over here, that is super painful to line up those chains. They never connect properly. They have really small hitbox. This is a lot more survival friendly, I think. It'd be a lot easier to build. I have the materials, and it looks great. It looks almost as good as what I had wanted to pull off over here with the smooth stone and the horizontal chains behind it. So I think this is what we're going to go with. It's a nice dark color, like using the spruce, so it's appealing because you have that wood color, and that adds a lot. And really, that might be a good alternative. That might be the ideal. It might be the ideal. It makes the castle look a lot warmer. With the darker color, though, I'm going for a stately look, a very austere and dominating and imposing look. And I think this design is a great compromise. It still looks great, and it'll be pretty easy to build in survival. So let's head back to the castle right now. Back here at Castle Miranda on the Slowrun SMP, I've got to empty my inventory, and I've got to clean up all of this stuff, bring it over to the caretaker's cottage, and then we're going to head back to base. We're going to pick up a whole lot of glass, and we're going to stop by the Guardian farm, pick up the black dye, and a couple more shulkers of stone so that we can work on those windows. And then the look of this castle will really start to come together, and we can then turn our attention to the clock tower. We'll wrap up this episode with a time lapse of the window treatment so you can see what it looks like from the outside when the windows come in. I know this has been a long build process, and I hope you're still enjoying. Please leave a like if you are. I'll catch you on the flip side. I am the talent. Today we made history, and tomorrow we're gonna make magic.